Hello, I'm Anne-Marie Foster and welcome to the latest episode of Little Bangor Stories. This time I'm talking trees with an expert, Dylan Freeburn. He's the Tree and Woodland Officer with Ards and Northdown Council. And where else would we be but among the fascinating specimens in Bangor's Castle Park. Anyway, so we've just walked out of the wall garden and we're on the little path at the back of the walled garden and we're heading into Castle Park.
Yeah, and this path is actually called My Lady's Walk.
Why is that?
So, back in the 19th century, so whenever this whole area was owned by the Ward family, the Ward family of Bangor, they're the residents of the now City Hall, or the castle. And back in the day, the ladies of the household used to come directly down from the castle to the walled garden, and you can't quite see it yet, but there is a gate which is now blocked up, and they would have went in there into the formal area, which is now the bandstand and coffee shop area. So it's called My Lady's Walk.
Lovely. And how long is it, and where does it go to?
It's basically, so now it goes from the castle, which would be, we're walking in the direction of the castle, straight, and then it'll just go to the end of the Valentine pitches. About a mile long.
About a mile long. Well, that would be a lovely walk for a lady.
Yeah, I think so.
Just enough really to build up an appetite.
Yeah, that's the old gate there.
Oh, there's the old gate there, yes, but it has a lovely archway, and they would have gone in there and perhaps picked the cut flowers for the dinner table.
So a bit of history about me. So I actually used to work in the walled garden for about 10 years.
All right.
I know a little bit about it, but the walled garden itself, and is separated. So the bandstand area would have been, the more formal area, so the family can come down, and then the main part of the Bangor walled garden would have been the Fadge garden. But we're not here to talk about gardens.
No, we're not. I'm going to say,
trees.
So what was the park? Was the park always the park?
Also, we're in the city of Bangor, and unlike many other places, it's quite unique, this park, because it's not just an urban park or woodland, it's actually an arboretum. An arboretum being, it's a collection of unusual species of trees, which was very popular pastime in the 19th century for the Victorians.
Okay, and who was the person who first came up with this idea and got the unusual specimens to start the whole project?
The head of the household back then, so it would have been a guy called Robert Edward Ward, the head of the Ward family, and they would have commissioned plant hunters back in 1840s, 1850s to go out to the far corners of Asia and North America, South America to collect these tree species.
Is that what they were actually? Plant hunters? Is that what they were called?
Yeah, they're called plant hunters back then. Yeah, because obviously all those areas were uncharted, so they're coming against these trees, which we'll see a few of them today here. And they're going, what's that there?
So were they kind of like, sort of like Sherlock Holmes or something? They would head off with a map and a briefcase and a magnifying glass and go to strange lands and just pick something.
Honestly, not far off it.
Sounds quite an exciting job to have.
Well, you know what, it's a very big deal back then, and they're making an awful lot of money doing it, because there was big competition back in the Victorian era, because the whole thing was gardens and arboretums like this. So in Northern Ireland alone, there isn't many. You have Castle Park, which back in the day, so now, if those who are familiar with Castle Park, it's a lot bigger back in the Victorian era. So it would have stretched right down to Ward Park, then up to the carriageway behind the Valentine pitches, and right over to near touching Claddyboy Estate. So it was a big area back in the day.
Gosh, it really was. I mean, you consider that's, I don't even know my acreage, but that's massive. And then I presume just over the years, little bits have been nibbled away or sold off as maybe the family needed money or wanted to improve the town or whatever.
Exactly. So I think it was in the 1950s whenever the Ward family sold Castle Park to the Land Bangor Council for a grand sum of about £40,000, I think.
Wow.
So, still a lot, still more than I could afford.
Oh yeah, but still, when you look at what they got for the £40,000, even in its smaller state, maybe from what it was in the 1950s, it's a wonderful asset for the city of Bangor, isn't it?
Well, I think so. We'll go down.
Okay,
I'm bringing you to the first tree. So,
okay. So we've wandered past this. What is this? This huge overgrowth of something, which I bet in the wintertime is just nothing but a few sticks.
pretty much, it's actually bamboo. So,
Ah.
so you can see a bit of it there. It's just, I think, especially with this park, there's bits of it, in my opinion anyway, which has probably been a little bit left. But currently what we're doing, so there's a development plan happening for Castle Park where we're going to be upgrading the path network, just improving it for accessibility. But also I'm starting to develop a tree trail
Lovely.
throughout the park. So at the moment there is the odd tree label on some trees. So here's one there.
Okay.
So this is a Bachelor nigra, so it means nigra in Latin is black.
Okay.
As a river birch, so it's originated from the United States. What we'll be doing is removing them and then putting new tags on, which which will be colour coordinated to the type of trail that you'd be on. So it'd be, I can't remember the top of my head, but for instance, for talk's sake, if you see a red tag, that means this tree is part of the short trail, then long trail, medium trail.
Those little black plaques with the white writing on them have been here for decades. I mean, I'm almost sure I remember them in my childhood in Castle Park.
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest.
How old do you think, or how long do you think that's been here?
Well, birches don't last very long, so they're commonly quite a short-lived tree.
Oh, right, okay.
But this, I reckon, so we're looking at about 13 metres height and about stem diameter of about 55, but I reckon about 80 years old.
Right, okay.
Give or take.
Okay,
They're quite
so
quick growing as well.
So maybe just planted just after the Second World War or something like that?
Yeah,
Wow.
around that. So unfortunately with Castle Park, there's no history of when the trees got here and who planted them. So part of the tree trail was I'm looking to develop, the history of the trees and how each one got here, and because there's been gardeners on this site from the 1850s, so even earlier. There used to be documents, and we have a historian who works in the council, and she informed me that all the documents were kept in the basement of the castle, but the basement got flooded. So bye documents, there's nothing there.
It is such a shame, and it's a bit of a challenge for you, but I'm sure if you're passionate about Castle Park and the trees and about opening the whole area up to more visitors, it's a bit of crack, a bit of fun.
I think so, and with the tree trail, so I'm talking about that, we're going to be relabeling all the trees, but what we'll also be doing under each tree, there'll be a little QR code. So we're going to make it interactive. So you can, this eventually, give me time to do it, but it'll be within the next year at least, where you can scan that QR code and then it'll bring up the detail of that tree. So not only the name, but it'll give you a history of when did this tree come to the island of Ireland, why did it come here, who's the plant hunter to find it. But also we're trying to get stories from Bangor, from residents. People grew up in this park, so there's going to be people going, I had my first kiss next to that tree. There's going to be someone like that, and we want to actually document them and record them and then put them on. So wherever you scan that QR code, you have the choice of clicking onto that and then listen to the history, because people associate themselves with that tree.
I love that idea, because it's like buildings, funny enough, buildings mean a lot to people because they're big, strong structures. We pass them, we go through them, we work in them, they mean a lot to people. I was speaking to sports people who said that their pitches mattered an awful lot to them, because that's where memories of great days and terrible losses were made. But equally, places like this park must mean so much to so many. As you say, first kisses, football games, hide and seek, all sorts of things that maybe have happened in our greener spaces. And now you're saying that you'd really like to hear those stories.
I think so. It creates the story behind the park. It creates almost the that this is the people's park.
That's lovely.
This is the community's park. Yes, it's council run, but council is maintained it on behalf
of the people.
Of the people.
And I bet you there's still some people who live in Bangor indeed I've spoken to some of them who can remember when they weren't allowed into Castle Park. They would be quite elderly themselves now, but it had a larger wall around it, I believe, and it wasn't until really the council bought it that literally the walls came down a little.
Yeah, well, there's remnants of that wall. So if you're walking along Abbey Street, and if you're standing at the train station side and looking across to Castle Park, you can see the old wall.
Yes.
And there's actually a little cottage right next to Abbey Street. So that's actually the old gatekeeper's cottage. So that's part of the old boundary of Castle Park. So we have some Japanese inspired trees. So we'll have the Acer and Japonica, which is this here.
Yeah, you almost wouldn't need to know that if you've seen any kind of Japanese art or the bonsai kind of trees. It just has that shape, doesn't it?
And very slow growing, so I reckon that's probably well over 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
For the size of it, it's only probably 7 metres in height.
And you were talking about the tree hunters earlier on, the plant hunters. Would they have come back with nuts and seeds from trees, or would they have taken the time to look for small saplings?
Yeah, whatever they can get.
Whatever they can get.
It was a mix, really. Ideally seeds, and because with the saplings, keeping them alive for that journey, because it's all boats in.
Yep. Yep. You couldn't put it in.
It was months.
You couldn't put it in the hold of Concorde or
Yeah.
a big cargo plane or anything like that yet.
So, a bit of detail about my job. So, I'm the tree and woodland officer for the council. I've been doing this role for about 3 years now. But part of my job is the surveying of all the trees, and what that entails really is, I look at each individual tree on all council-owned land, and I categorise what the risk of that tree is to causing damage to property or persons. Sometimes there's weather events that can happen that completely blows that out of the window, where you can look at a tree and think that's perfectly healthy, there's no signs of disease or anything wrong with that tree, but then Storm Ewan comes along and this type of things happens, where we're looking at about 6 metre wide root plate of what came down, a big giant pine tree.
Wow. Gosh, and this came down 6 or 7 months ago.
Yeah, so when was that? January, Storm Ewan happened. So you can see the force that it took to rip that out of the ground.
Was it a healthy tree? Can you tell?
Perfectly healthy tree. But it's just absolutely is once every 30-year weather event. So that's what strong winds can do.
Oh, from here you see the massive roots, and they're just chopped off and left hanging.
No problem.
So what's around the other side of it?
Well, it's this here.
Oh,
so
the rest of the tree.
The rest of the tree. I would have loved to hear the thump, but thankfully, I was like everyone else. We're all sheltered indoors at that stage.
Yeah, that was a scary storm. So it's just lying here in all its straightness and correctness, until there's a kind of great jumble and tangle of dead branches and leaves here. So will it just lie here now?
No. So also, again, part of my job. So I'm surveying the trees, identifying what risks they pose, and if I do see that there is a risk, then I would recommend tree works. So the likes of this here, because it's fallen, it's safe at the moment, but we can only do tree works outside of bird nesting season, and that bird nesting season starts the 1st of March and ends the last day in August, and then from September to February is tree maintenance season.
Okay.
So we can only do stuff during that time, unless it's extreme danger. If it's posing an extreme or a risk immediately, then we have to do something. But whenever it comes to the next tree maintenance season, we'll probably chop this up or create something. We're actually doing a bit of artwork around Castle Park now, where I'm talking to an artist who's going to actually do some carvings for us on some of the trees. Some of the trees which are either dead or monolith, but certainly with this here we can do something with it too.
Yeah, and would the artists that you're hoping to work with, would they have first dibs on parts of this tree if they fancied it, do you think?
Yeah, they'll have first dibs.
What happens to the rest of it then?
Well, as much as people probably don't like to hear it, it just gets chopped up and taken away by the contractors.
So you haven't touched it because, you know, at the minute the tangle of branches are looking very dead, but when the tree came down, it was coming into bird nesting season, was it? And it could have been of value? Or?
Yeah, because it was the end of January and it was just devastation throughout the borough. So we basically had to make everything safe and then get back to it in the next season.
Yeah.
You know, that's all we could have done really. There's just an absolute vast quantity of trees that came down.
Yeah.
You know, it was manic.
Have you any idea how many you lost?
On council land, I think the number would have been about 500.
So will you leave nothing then of this for nature to take her course?
No. So we'll always eyeball it, and we'll always decide at the time. So there's absolutely no reason why we can't chop some of this up and create log piles and leave it in the corner somewhere. You know, it's about having it in the right place and in the right location. You know, we're in Castle Park. We're in sort of a informal-ish area, so there's no reason why we couldn't. Whenever this gets chopped up, we could pile it up and create a wee biodiversity habitat. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, it's quite shocking actually. You tend to think that storms are the natural predators of sick trees, but when you see something that looked as straight and true and solid as this one, just upended.
A very interesting thing about that storm, particularly what I noticed, was a lot of the trees which we believe were sick and we recommend it works on, they never sustained any damage. They're perfectly fine. It's all these type of trees, a lot of firs and conifers and pines which really suffered during a storm, where they're top heavy foliage wise.
Of course.
And the storm just ripped them out of the ground.
Yeah.
Just completely ripped them out of the ground. So, you know, it shows you. But again, it's nature.
Yeah.
So it's the natural process of what happens in selection.
So you lost 500 trees.
Ish.
Will you replace them with 500-ish trees or more?
Yeah. So my job came about. So the council agreed a tree and woodland strategy. Part of that strategy is every year until 2032 we must plant 160,000 trees. So that's equivalent of 15,000 trees every year up until 2032.
On council land?
You know, the majority will be on council owned and maintained land, but we can plant on private land. We'll just do a bit of negotiating with the landowner, but there's no reason why we can't. In fact, we are trying to do that at the moment and writing that up to talk to a private landowner about planting about 6,000 trees.
To create a little copse or a little wood?
New woodland.
New woodland.
Just on Lake there, actually.
Lovely. So if you're a homeowner and you have a huge garden and you fancy...
Come talk to us. Act the council, phone in, ask for the Parks Department and explain what you're looking to do.
Now, the trees that you're going to replace, are you sending out plant hunters to find replacements for the unusual ones, or are we concentrating maybe on native Irish trees? What's your plan?
So it all depends. So the majority of the 15,000 trees a year will be Irish and native trees. So you likes of sessile oak, which is the Irish oak, and Doherty birch and stuff like that, and they will mostly be whips. So that's how you get that vast number of 15,000, and they're more for creating new woodland or even hedgerows. So native hedgerows are included in that number, because if you left a hedgerow, they'll grow into trees. So it's the same thing. But the likes of Castle Park, where it's a historical arboretum, we would source more unusual stuff coming in. So likes of here, this pine that came down, we will look at, well, let's get a replacement for that. So and with Castle Park, what we're trying to do is succession planting. So there's a lot of old trees in here. The oldest trees would be at the far side, closest to Glenola.
On the park side of the road that leads to Aurora and the Wall Garden?
So that's probably the oldest bit of the park, which will go to that direction here. But those trees are probably, at least 200 years old, so they'll be. And it's about, and they're starting to fail. A lot of the trees in Castle Park are starting to fail, so it's about succession planting and identifying even more unusual species to put in here.
Yeah. How old do you think this one was?
About 100, 150. Yeah.
And if it was healthy, how much longer, and there was no storm to pull it down?
Another 100 years, no reason. Why not?
For a pine tree.
We also have these big boys.
Yeah, they are just stunning.
So these are the eucalyptus trees. So eucalyptus is the most dangerous tree in the world because they're known to just, for no reason whatsoever, just drop a limb. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say forest fires and all the eucalyptus oil inside them. I know they've been banned in some countries because of that, but I was not expecting that.
No. So they kill more people. They're the one tree that kills the most people because they just randomly drop a limb. On a nice non-breezy day, people take a picnic under it. And
It just doesn't look as if that should be so, because the bark at this time of the year is greens and browns and oranges, and it looks like some kind of 1950s abstract artist has had great fun. It actually looks like somebody has wrapped that tree in, like you would wrap a car. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that we're underneath a branch at the minute and it could just decide, nah, don't need this
don't
anymore.
worry, I'll push you out of the way.
So I'm amazed. I mean, we've 3 of them here in little copse together.
Mm-hmm.
Is it safe? I have to ask that.
Oh, it's safe. It's safe. Now, it's the most dangerous tree in the world. It kills the most people. But here, 1 in 20 million. I'll take the odds.
Oh, it's just beautiful.
And with these trees too. So, whether you're driving into Bangor from Hollywood, Belfast, and you're coming to the carriageway, and you can see Castle Park in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
These are the trees
That you
see
see.
just poke it up. Eucalyptus, that's what they are.
They're the tallest
Because
then?
we're probably at the top of the hill here,
Of course.
and these are at least 25 metres high. So I mean, they just poke out from the canopy, and you can see them from
Now
the carriageway.
that's amazing, because I'm got to turn round and is this a redwood? Oh, it was going to be tagged.
What I can do here is bring up this nifty little thing. So what you notice with all the trees in Castle Park, and actually a lot of all the other council-owned parks, so Ward Park and Ballymenic and Hollywood and Londonderry Park and Ards, there's a lot of little silver tags with
Like little dog tags.
little
I think,
dog
yeah.
tags with numbers on them. Now, I've heard over the years a lot of people say that if they're tagged, it means they're TPO'd. So TPO means Tree Preservation Order, and that tree's protected. You can't do anything. That's not the case. So simply, what those tags are identification markers.
Okay.
So what we have, or what I have, and what the council have, we have a tree map, and there's also a public version of this tree map too, where if you type in, so for talk's sake, this tree is 0538. So on my tree map, 0538, and you go to search.
I think I have used the public tree map for a few of the trees in the park. I can't remember how you get to it. Do you go into the council's website?
So if you go into the council's website, type in tree and woodlands, and it'll bring you to the tree and woodland page, and you can then see the link for tree map.
Okay, and then you can follow it, yeah.
So this tree, as you say, it's a giant redwood, so it's a sequoia.
So you see, I would have thought that it would have been this tree that you would have spotted as you drive into Bangor, not the eucalyptus, but maybe it's only a baby.
By all means, it is quite small for a sequoia, and also with the sequoias, so if you touch it, it's really spongy bark.
Yes, these are well known, certainly in my family, for being a spongy tree.
Yeah, and that's why they're very popular, and the biggest tree in the world is in Northern California. And obviously they survive there very well because of the forest fires. These don't die, these don't get killed off by the forest fires because of the amount of moisture
that they hold in their spongy barks.
Spongy barks.
And would these have been brought by the tree hunters?
Exactly, so the Ward family would have contacted a tree hunter and said, go to North America and see what you can find me.
Yeah.
And they would have brought these back.
Yeah, and we're glad they did, because, I mean, generations of children have kind of moved their way up the bark, just tapping it and punching it.
So that there is probably 28 metres high. So it is probably, I mean, you can probably see it
you can probably see
as you're coming in.
It as well. And there's a number of these around the park, aren't there?
There's a couple of them. There's another one there.
Yes.
And then again at the far side, which...
The old side.
The old side, there's one there too.
There's a lovely bird song in the background, and And on the ground here, I can see nuts. Is Castle Park an important place for all our wildlife?
Certainly, I mean, it's an urban park. You know, like I said earlier, there's not many towns or cities which has a park like this, slap bang in the centre.
Yeah.
And we do what we can for the bird species in here. So,
Any unusual ones or ones that are a bit shy that people might not know are here?
well, there's some shy ones. There's during the autumn and winter months, chays will come in here. So chays are of the magpie family.
Yeah.
But they're a lot more colourful. They're like a brownie with blue
Ooh.
and white. But they're very shy birds. I mean, again, because I worked in the wall garden, so I'll be in here about 7:30 every morning, and they'll be in there. But the moment they get a whiff of human activity, they're
away.
So they're quite difficult to spot. So
Yeah, and we've seen magpies, of course, and I presume there's a population of blackbirds and thrush, wrens, maybe.
there's certainly wrens. I've seen the old tree creeper in here,
Ooh.
which is quite not rare but unusual to see.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite difficult to spot sometimes. Sparrowhawks. There's sparrowhawks in Castle Park.
Right, but clearly the hooded crows in the wall garden and elsewhere are not a bit worried about them.
Well, the hooded crows that is a story in itself.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think their wall garden staff are having awful trouble
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
hooded crows at the moment.
And then insects, to go right to the other end of the scale, do they need trees? Or how do insects help you in managing
It's all
the
about
park?
It's all the biodiversity cycle. So the trees here support all the habitats of what that we can possibly get. That's why we leave. You know, as I was saying earlier, with that pine that came down, we'll be leaving chunks of that behind, most likely, in order to create the habitats
for the insects?
For the insects, which will then in turn feed the birds,
Yeah.
which will in turn feed the small birds. It'll feed the sparrowhawk.
And we can't not mention the grey squirrels.
Grey squirrels.
Are they a help or a hindrance? In recent times, did we have red squirrels in Castle Park?
Yeah, so I've been in the Parks Department since 2014. I moved up here. We had guys who've been in the Parks Department from the 70s. So whenever you're talking to them, they go, it used to be only red squirrels in here. And then, you know, in the late 80s, 90s, greys just came in and dominated. So red squirrels for Bangor, for North Down area, there's not an awful lot. There's some hot spots, but hot spots being a very loose term, really.
Yeah. Any in the park?
No,
No.
none in the park.
And yet the greys are abundant at certain times and so cheeky they don't seem to worry about people walking dogs. They run along the pavements in Abbey Street if they see anything interesting, and I've seen them spread throughout gardens and everything all around Bangor.
Oh yeah, technically they're invasive species, so they're
Yes.
grey squirrels.
Yeah.
Now, there's a wood pigeon above us cracking some twigs there.
They must have nearly all finished raising chicks and fledging and all the rest of it by now.
Sometimes they have two
Yes.
sets in here.
Yeah.
So it just depends. But plenty of wood pigeons.
So you mentioned earlier on that you're going to kind of bring the trail paths through Castle Park right bang into the 21st century.
Yeah.
How many trails are you planning to have, and are they just on length or are they on interest, or what? Tell me a wee bit more about them.
So as a council and as the Parks Department, we're really trying to bring our parks up to a bit of a new lease of life into the parks. We've started with Ward Park, where we've introduced a few things with new garden down there.
The Sensory Garden.
Sensory Garden, that's the term. And there's going to be the Ward Park redevelopment happening pretty soon too. And then with Castle Park, we're going to be redoing the path network, the existing path network, just upgrading it. And then I'll be then putting in the new tree trail. So with the tree trail, there's different things, different ways I could have took it. I could have took it that this trail is the autumn trail and this trail is the winter trail. Didn't quite work out that way for Castle Park because there's no way we could really squeeze that in. So what I've done instead is we've created a short trail, a medium trail and long trail. So top of my head I can't quite remember, but the short trail would be a 30-minute walk, medium would be a 45, and then an hour and a half for the long trail. And it'd be all colour coordinated to whatever trail, and then there'd be signs at either side of Castle Park to tell you what it is, and it'd be interactive with QR code, but also not everyone can have QR codes, so there will be booklets and stuff like that. So
and you're improving the path surfaces as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, for example, people who use wheelchairs or whatever.
It's all about accessibility. Definitely over the past few years, there's been, with me being in the parks for so long, there's been a definite switch where there's a lot more development and engagement and public engagement and trying to get people into our parks to enjoy them more. Yeah.
And to find out more about them, I suppose, because once they realise how important the trees are, how long they've been around, well, they can't but help but be proud of them and want everybody to respect them and look after them.
Exactly, and we want people to take, use their initiative and take ownership of the park. So as part of Parks Week and throughout the year, we're starting to develop volunteer groups. I'm trying to start a tree volunteers to help me go around to engage with local schools, engage with community groups about all things trees. Again, my job and doing surveys and planting, but I'm out there with schools planting orchards and planting new woodlands. It's just about spreading that message as much as possible, and also with the succession planting. We're trying to develop. Do we have enough trees to actually plant? Which is a big thing. We're planting 15,000 trees a year.
Where do you get them?
Exactly. Exactly. So that's why we're starting to develop tree nurseries and community tree nurseries. Brilliant. So we now have 3 groups involved with that, where that involves me talking to groups, getting them out into the parks, harvesting tree seeds. They grow them on, and we can use some of them. They can use the trees that they grow.
If people want to help you with this, how do they get in touch? Again, just via the Parks Department?
Parks Department and the Council,
Okay. Over your shoulder there, I notice a specimen that's obviously just been left there for quite a long time, but I take it that was deliberately?
That's deliberate.
And it has its own beauty.
Exactly, so that is a monolith. So whether we're deciding what to do with the tree, if the recommendation that the tree has to go, it's about, well, how do we then get rid of it? Do we chop it down straight at the ground, just forget it was ever there, or do we create a monolith? So that there's monolith. It's about a 5-metre monolith, but that there creates habitat. As a habitat creation. So that's perfect for all the insects and bugs and roosting birds.
It's also fascinating, anybody who is artistic photography, art, printmaking or whatever, there's so much that tree is giving you, isn't it, with all the patterns on it? And
I think there's a place for monoliths, especially if it's a certain type of tree, because there's times where I have to make the difficult decision of felling as a significant tree because the risk just outweighs where I have to do it. But I don't want to just chop it at the ground and forget that tree was ever there. So monoliths are quite a good way to remind people. By the way, there used to be a very big tree here.
I've seen now that I don't know how long that has been a monolith, and how long it's taken nature to get busy with it. I've seen a couple of others, and they really do look like monoliths. They look like pillars of stone in parts of the garden. They're so clean and cut straight and tall.
Over time, they're dead. They're dead trees, so they're going to slowly decompose, and it'll start to look like that, where it gets pointy and
bits fall off.
Now, small bits won't hurt you. Don't worry. So this is the oldest bit of the Arboretum.
Oh yes, I can see the car park of Aurora in the distance. Yes, so we're down by the ancient part of our park.
Right, so directly in front of us is a Monterey cypress. So this is definitely the biggest tree. So it is one tree, it looks like 2.
It does.
It's one.
It looks like 2 tree trunks, and one of the trunks has lots of huge branches coming out of it. But you said it's one tree.
That's one tree, it has one root system. Part of my job is talking to other industry experts, tree officers and other people who are in this game. So there's a thing called the champion trees. So there's UK champion trees and Irish champion trees, and what that means is if you think you have a particular tree which is the largest in girth, height, width, then you can basically contact these guys who'll come out and do the measurements to determine
Okay.
if it's the biggest in that category. So then you get to slap a label on saying that for talk's sake, this Monterey cypress is has the biggest diameter of all Monterey cypresses in the UK.
And did it come over as a seed with the plant hunter?
Yep, certainly. So all this area would have.
Yeah.
But it's also a good example if we walk on down.
Okay. It's funny though, Dylan, it's only at certain angles that you really appreciate some of the trees, don't you? You kind of have to walk all around every one of them to get the best view.
Exactly.
Now, you see, these branches I would be a bit nervous about walking underneath because they do look like they could pop down on you.
Also, with the succession planting, which we're identifying which trees which we're going to replace, so with that Monterey cypress is a prime example of, I'm going to bring in Monterey cypress trees, just plant now, because eventually this one is going to fail. It's probably 250 years old at least. There's already limbs starting to drop off it, and over the next few years, a lot more is going to drop off it. And then that's where I have to probably make the decision that I don't want to make is I have to start doing works to it. Ideally, I never want to do works to any tree. I rather
just let nature take its course.
Just leave it. It's fine. But as a responsible landowner, which I'll say the council have to be, we have to do something.
Yeah, because
it's a public park.
Exactly.
People picnic under it. And unfortunately, there's been a few horror stories over the past month or so with public parks and.
You're not going native Irish with whatever
this
space. We want to replace that and bring it back and remember the history through it.
Yes, exactly. So we have this Monterey cypress and then we have the Monterey pine. So I was given a tree tour a year and a half ago, and I was talking about this, where the succession planting and the difficult decision that eventually I'm going to have to do something with these trees because they're going to fail. I just know they are. And a day later, it was the next day, you can see that big rip.
Yes.
That just came down. So, my hands are tied and I had to do something, I had to top the other two.
Yeah.
So again, that would have been, Monterey cypress and Monterey pine, both were about 250 years old.
Probably both brought back from the same trip.
Exactly, yeah. So
you can see, yes, where the bark or the wood is all silvered from being out, like our pine does when we have it outside. I was going to ask you, because I spotted one earlier on, there's a little sort of bird box stuck to that tree. There's another one behind us. Yeah. Do you still have the bird boxes, or are they remnants from another initiative years ago?
Well, wherever I started, was it 11 years ago now? The start of the initiative of putting bird boxes up around the park. We haven't done it for a while, but there's no reason why we can't continue doing that, really. But also we have bat boxes. There's a lot of bats in Castle Park. So there is. So if you come in just at dusk, you'll see the bats about.
Now this area here looks quite young.
Yeah, so again with the succession planting, so there would have been other trees in here which were 250 years old. So successive parks teams over the years have slowly but surely been replanting with unusual stuff. So like you have swamp cypress and the silver birches over there too.
Yes,
it's quite nice.
Lovely.
And then there was a cork oak, which is where corks come from. But it's a field. It was blown down in the last storm, so again I have to look at replanting with out there.
And look at me, that's another beautiful Japanese acer.
You have another big acer there. So gorgeous. Again, that's probably near 200 years old. That one, that's one of the biggest ones.
It always surprises me, the way the plant hunters went away out 200 and odd years ago and brought back seeds and saplings or whatever of plants that had never grown here. You really wouldn't be allowed to really do that anymore. Sure you wouldn't.
No, there's biosecurity. Would prevent you from doing it. So
Don't just pick up a seed when you're away on holiday somewhere and
No, you
think I'll plant that in Castle Park.
you get told off. I mean, that's how a lot of the invasive species got over here.
Yeah,
you know.
and yet our the wildlife and the the creatures around these trees seem to have adapted to them.
Yeah, well, like a lot of areas. So, like for instance, a lot of the species from Japan grows very well in this country.
Are our climates similar?
Similar, obviously not as hot.
No.
But I mean, they can adapt very well. You know, there's a lot of trees and species of plants as well, which can adapt very nicely to this country.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. You know, it depends how it was hardened off as well, especially if you're buying it in. You know, a lot of their trees are based in Italy. So if you're buying stuff from Italy and then bringing it over here and planting it straight away, it's never going to survive.
No.
You know, you have to harden it off. And
Yeah. While we're wandering around, tell me this: are you also responsible for little nooks and crannies like Strickland's Glen?
Yeah. So look, any council-owned park and woodland, you know, I'll be responsible for the tree management or the tree surveys within those areas, and even we outliers. You know, there's some street trees council are responsible for, so we're responsible for the trees going up and down Main Street and High Street.
Yes.
And in Hollywood, we're responsible for Main Street trees. Now they're DFI owned, but there's currently we're maintaining them on behalf of the DFI for a while. And also we're talking to DFI about increasing the tree canopy. So whoever's talking about whips and 15,000 trees every year, in many ways we'll still hit that number of 160,000, which that's not just a number picked out of the sky, it's the population of Ards North Down. So it sort of matches
A tree for every person?
A tree for every person. No.
I love that idea.
That's the way it went. But you know, what we're trying to do is, yes, we'll hit that number by 2032, but we want to sort of focus on canopy cover itself. So a whip is going to take 50 years before it produces any form of
a
canopy.
whip is really like a stick
It's a
growing
stick.
out of the ground.
It's about 2 feet. You know, it's a little stick. Now it grows very fast. In fact, whips grow quicker than if you buy a big tree.
But they're concentrating on getting as high as they can before their canopy really develops.
So one area I'm really looking to focus on is canopy cover and protecting the canopy that we have.
Okay.
And then introducing more specimen trees, you know, bigger trees, especially in the urban area. So recently we commissioned a tree asset report through Treeconomics, which is a company over in England, but they basically took all our tree data. So at the moment we've surveyed about maybe 10,000, and Treeconomics basically looks into those numbers about what we have and all and where they are location wise, and along with the Woodland Trust's tree equity score, which looks at the urban canopy, we can identify as a council now, you know, which area in Ards North Down is deprived of trees. So we can actually start focusing on those areas more about, you know, well, let's get more trees in there, and then that's where our talks with DFI come in by introducing more street trees along the way. And
now DFI is
the Department for Infrastructure.
Yep.
And under them is the road service. So it's mainly the road service we're communicating with.
Yeah. There's one of the old park trails soon to be replaced.
Yes, that's a very old one. I don't think I've ever seen that trail being used.
Red and yellow triangles.
Yeah.
Is the little are the wee board still up near the museum that says follow this
It's
colour?
still there, but by all means don't follow it.
So just a couple of little questions that people always wonder about whenever they go through Castle Park. So there are people buried in Castle Park.
Oh yeah, so the Ward family. There's the Ward family grave. So if you walk in the direction from the side of the walled garden up towards the health centre,
Yes.
Bangor Health Centre, and just on your right, there's the Ward family grave in there.
At Christmas, is the place ravaged by people trying to create door decorations?
Well, other than myself coming in and taking what berries I can off the holly trees, no, not too bad.
Do you have a favourite tree, a favourite area in the park?
Favourite tree? You know what, I think just the simple sessile oak, which is the Irish native oak.
Yeah.
I think that's my favourite tree.
What's the best thing about working here?
I'm outdoors. You know, I started as a gardener when I was 16 years old, and I moved into more, trees and arboriculture, which just allows me to be outdoors. So instead of stuck in an office all day, still a bit of office work, but I'm outdoors most of the time.
Perfect life then.
Yeah, great.
My thanks to Dylan for his time. I learnt so much. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe, and check the Little Bangor Stories website for plenty of pictures from our walk and all our earlier episodes. And get in touch if you've a wee story to tell. Until the next time.